Hello everyone and welcome back to Fixing Up the Fargo Part 6. Yes, Part 6. Finally. I hope you guys liked my filler video of the Sioux grinding machine. Yeah, we don't really need it for the faces now that we've just lapped them by hand. Some of them, they had some pitting on them, but I don't really want to grind them down because they've been ground before, trust me, and the margin isn't that great. So we're going to leave them as is for now. Yeah, it's backwards, but we're going to get to putting our rings in. We can't do them yet because we're waiting on my better, finer stones to come in for my cylinder hone and my ring grinder for setting my ring end gap. For now, we're going to set our valves. So oddly enough, these valves are both set at 14 thousandths of an inch. So that's super easy. Okay, she's a little bit tight in here, but you just have a 1/2 inch down here, 7/16 there, and this one really nice already. And this one I just got done setting just how I like it. Slides in with just a tad amount of resistance, if that. You'll know what I mean if you've done them before. This one here, our exhaust, is the one that I had to grind a little bit past factory spec, that's for sure. So I was a little nervous we might not have some room, but I'll check here. About perfect. We're at about the bottom of our adjustment too, so it worked out good. With our valves all set, we're just going to clean out these inside of these tappet galleries here, spray them out with air, and then we'll put our covers on and it'll start looking like an engine again. With a little bit of oil added in there, we'll put our tappet covers back on. I figured a bit of extra oil in there won't hurt anything, and it'll help it get oil pressure sooner. You know when you just can't find something like that? It's big enough, but you can't find it. I've looked all through my tray, everywhere, and somebody's probably going to spot it right away because I'm looking at it, but that would be the last spot that you'd expect it. Hanging right there. Alright, I think we're all buttoned up. I added a little bit of extra RTV on the intake gaskets since we're using them because those are the critical ones and a little exhaust leak don't hurt. But anyways, we're missing one clip right here and the joys of having cats. We'll find it though. I got the linkages all cleaned up and clipped on, spring on. We want that on so our throttle doesn't stick. And we just got to get a piece of or another hose barb to run up from our fuel pump up to the intake or up to our inlet here, and we'll be good to go. It's actually starting to look like an engine again, which is somewhat nice. It looks really good with it ridge reamed there. I can't wait to hone it and get that done and get these pistons in. Hone is in, and we've got our spray 9 bottle here cleaned out, and we got it with diesel fuel in it. The manual calls for kerosene, which is a heavily refined diesel. Correct me if I'm wrong, something like that. Diesel will work fine. I just thought I'd try an experiment here off camera, getting some nice cross hatching in there. You can see above where that little bit of a ridge was. So Anyways, let's get to it. I've just experimented with these two and we'll get to the rest. Okay, so I can't really show the cross hatching. I got it on a nice 45 though. It's hard to tell right here. You get a little bit of light from the window. It looks like there's big burrs. You get light from this flashlight. Anyways, it looks really good. Right along the edge here, obviously the stones bridge the gap between where I use the reamer right here, and this is where our rings stop here. That's just leftover carbon and combustion there where the stones bridged. So anyways, it's honed out, beautiful. We're gonna start the long process of cleaning now. We are slowly but surely getting there. That was a really bad idea not to cover those up. This has been a horrible cleaning procedure. We got Felix the cat here, riding around on the creeper here, just loving it. You gonna clean the next crankshaft, buddy? Okay, after a couple cans of brake cleaner, we got the bores all cleaned, wiped down, crank, main bearings, everything all wiped out and good to go, hopefully. It took a long time. I should have really covered that up, but lesson learned for next time. We got our rings out here. We're gonna start fitting them to the bore. I even ordered a nice ring gapper because we're gonna have to take quite a bit off these rings due to the nature of them being 30 over and our bores being 20, but if you can't get a 20 set, what do you do? Our oil control rings were very good. Now we're gonna get to setting our second compression ring and then our first. We're setting our rings at about 10 or 11 thousandths of an inch. The spec in the book says 7 to 15. Another book for the same thing says 10 to 20. And a rule of thumb is, 3 or 4 thou per every inch of bore. So we got about 3 and 7/16. We'll call that 3.5. So we're gonna, not 9 thou would be for 3 inches, and then another 1.5 inches, 10.5. So we're gonna go about 11. Anyways, we'll see what we can do. That's tight. Normally I would not do that much, but since these are 30 over rings, they're tight. Perfect. Tight. The only reason I'm being so aggressive with this is I had to change the last one a lot, so that's why we're being so aggressive. One down. We got 5 more to do. We'll touch base when we're done with them. Well, after a couple hours of setting our end gaps, I figured that I'd touch base back with you guys again, and I figured you didn't want to watch me do that because it was a painful, time-consuming task, but we're dialed in now. We're going to give these a final wipe, give our cylinders a final wipe and our crank, and we're going to get to sending these pistons down to the cylinders, and we'll let you watch that. Okay, now that we're ready for pistons, I'm just going to show you guys one. So with our connecting rod this way, we're we're gonna have our ring end gap right here, there. We kind of want to make it like a peace sign. There, we got our top one there, and then if I flip this 180 degrees, you're gonna see, where is it? Right here. I want this roughly in line with our connecting rod here, so technically it could cheat to there. Anyways, it's close enough. That's where we want our gap, and we want that to come up on our oil control ring there in the middle. Then we want the top ring here to be like this. Flip it over, we want this ring like that. I have some clean oil on a clean towel. Gonna wipe this in oil. Get around the rings there. Slide over our compressor. Okay, we got to make sure our pistons point frontwards. There's a front mark on it. Other ones have writing, whatever. A lot of guys will put rubber on these hoses. If I was doing a brand new precision engine, you bet I'd have some on there. But with this old girl, they guide on just fine. Those con rods are so big. Go. You got to make sure that your writing where you're stamped is on the right side. So this side has no stamp, the other side does. And we got our lube on here. Drop that. I'm going to finish the rest of the pistons on time lapse. We'll touch base when we're done. Okay, I just torqued the con rod bolts down to 50. Sorry I can't film this stuff, but it's hard enough for me to get under here, let alone film it. Oil pan mating surface is clean around the ends here. I'm gonna make sure everything is good, wipe it, and slap that on. One thing that engine rebuilder Ron said is to leave these up, because the first engine he ever did when he was young on his first car or truck, whatever it was, he said he ruined it. And that's why he highlighted it here for me. And you got to leave these tabs over top here, and these bottom ones, as illustrated on the other side, stick up a little bit. There's a spec here, what it says, 1/8 to 1/4. Anyways, right there, that's what we got. It looks funny, but I guess that smushes into place and allows for expansion. Just gonna slide underneath and throw this oil pan on. With our oil pan now installed, I just went ahead and shot some oil down into the crankcase and brought it up to the full level. Didn't get that on camera, but we're topped up. So now what we're gonna do is clean up our mating surfaces, slap on the head, and crank it over until we get good oil pressure. I apologize, after a long hard day, the phone died and you didn't get to see me torquing on the bolts. We torqued them to 65 foot-pounds. I left out the plugs. I pulled off my my oil filter, sucked out some of the gunge. You missed that all in the clip, so we're filling you in. Now what I'm gonna do, the battery's low, but I'm gonna see when I crank this over if we can get some fresh oil in. There we go. Looks nice and clear. I'm gonna suck out the gunge out of the bottom, put the filter back in, fill that up, and build some oil pressure. Shouldn't take long to build pressure now. After reviewing the footage, I seen that we had good oil pressure. You guys seen it before me. That's the way to do it, is fill that up. Anyways, I just tossed in the spark plugs because these damn things in here like to put dirt all over everything, and I have to be really cautious. Anyways, sounds really good. We got really good compression. I turned it over off camera with my thumb on top, and great vacuum. So we're gonna throw on the air cleaner for the night. 90 kilometers of wind gusts. That's where my phone stopped recording. I shoved a piece of 1/4-inch fuel line on there. I put my coil and my oil filter on, put the back heater hose on, and that's all I've done. Oh. Sure, just get that all over. Well, I forgot I put a hole in the top of that bottle for a vent hole so it doesn't suction in last time, but anyways, we figured it out once it started leaking. I just cleaned up the mess, ran that over here quick, and before we fill up our gas tank, I'm gonna run it off of that. It drained down quite a bit, so I imagine our bowl's full now. I'm gonna dump a little bit of water in. I guess I should reconnect that hose, and let's see if she'll fire up. Okay, we got carb issues. I gotta reset my float height, or we got a float that's leaking. It's overflowing a bit, so I just turned the bottle off to the side so it doesn't overflow, but we'll still have a float bowl full of gas. So let's see what she does. Fingers crossed. I'll give her a bit more. Well, I hope that looked good. She was a bit smoky indeed. All this is just coming off the manifold, all that oil and stuff. I slid a little bit of water into the radiator, just water, just to see if we have any leaks. We are all good, except the weep hole on the water pump is leaking. You know, that's just a given. I should have ordered one, but I don't know why I didn't. I was so distracted ordering other parts. Anyways, just popped off the top of the float, or the float bowl there, and I cleaned up the inside of my needle here. Our float height, the tab was bent way off, so I bent that the other way, and I think we're gonna be good. I think it was just a float height issue. Starting to fill up now. See if it shuts off at the right time. Still see it flowing in there. Float's coming up. There we go. Oh. There we go. That's pretty cool. I think it should be a little bit higher, but I'll adjust that. Yeah, I think we need a water pump. Maintaining awesome oil pressure. Keep working well. Well, everyone, thanks for watching. That's the end of episode 6 of the Fargo Resto. We got a good running motor now. We're going to run it a little bit more before we do an oil change and get that done. And yeah, basically hook up our fuel system next time and see if our clutch works and get it outside and get it for a run. So stay tuned for part 7, but let's hope that she runs, drives, and stops. We can't ask for any more than that, can we?